kale ng'ekkanisa ya Uganda Provincial Assembly yasalawo omwezi guno ogw'okumu gubeere omwezi gw'abaana. N'olwekyo tutandikidde wano abaana yonna gye bali basseeko omwoyo.
Patrick Biekwaso, the program's manager at Children at Risk Action Network, says much as parents have to work in order to provide for their children, they also have to create time to bond with them and understand them better. He says it is not ideal for parents to leave all the responsibility of their children to house helps, noting that they might lead their children in wrong paths.
It's unfortunate that many children within our day and age have been neglected by their parents, and part of that is because we've given priority to raising finances as opposed to our responsibility as parents, because one of our primary responsibilities is to take care of the children that God has given them to us. God has given them to us as a gift, and we have to use that opportunity to help them in their formative years so that they are growing well and healthy. Now, when we leave them to house managers, a good number of these house managers are not qualified or even know how to take care of these children. And so we are leaving our children in hands that are not capable of raising them up. But even as parents, we have our own view of how we would love to see our children grow, the kind of values they would have. Unless we create that time, we are going to have children that are the opposite of what we would have desired them to be.
Biekwaso says parents have continued to have spoiled relationships with their children because both parties have failed to connect and realize their mistakes, like parents who want to impose what they think is good for their children without listening to what the children want. He says this is unfortunate and parents should work towards being understood by their children and vice versa.
I think it's important as parents for us to recognize where we have gone wrong and be able to apologize to our children, but also to settle some of those issues. As Christians, we are called upon to settle disputes wherever they are. In fact, Jesus' example is that even when you're offering at the altar, leave that and come and sort out the issue of your brother or sister who has something against you. We need to find room for asking for forgiveness and seeking for reconciliation. And it's not just parents to do that, but children as well. It's also important that as our children are growing, we are building this relationship with them. If we don't have time to build strong relationships with our children, then it's going to be difficult for them to be able to reconcile with us when things have gone wrong. Where we have committed forms of abuse that have pushed them away, it's important that we seek forgiveness for them, but also work towards correcting some of those mistakes that have been made.
Reverend Richard Rukundo, the Youth and Children Coordinator at All Saints Church of Uganda, agrees with the fact that child violence is still a huge challenge in today's society, giving examples of rampant child abuse, including school attacks like fires, community child violence, and sexual violence. He encourages adults to be keen and find out what exactly their children are going through and shield them from abusers.
I think as a church, we realize that violence is a pandemic. It's been here, it's still here. And unfortunately, with the children's law that we have, we've not improved so much about the violence against children. Children are still having violence in schools, and unfortunately for me, I talk about these fires that we've seen in schools. Every time you see a fire in a school and children lose their lives, that's violence, because a child has gone to school, they're expecting to study very well, and unfortunately they die in school. That's violence of the highest order. So we have violence in schools, even by teachers sometimes mistreating the children, corporal punishments. Children are there very scared, afraid, like now the exams happening, a lot of tension, you must pass grade 8, the pressure is just too much. Violence in schools is not acceptable. School should be a place where you love to go, you love to learn, you love school, but school becomes too stressful, the children hate it, and they end up leaving school.
He applauded the Archbishop on launching the Children's Focus Month, where children's voices will be heard, and supported more, saying the church is one of the places that can come up and stand for the children in a bid to stop violence against them, but rather support the children to grow into people of virtue in future.
Of course, I work with the Church of Uganda, and I'm happy that the Archbishop launched the Church of Uganda Focus Month of Children. His Grace Dr. Samuel Stephen Kazimba. And when we launched that, we're saying as a church, we also have a voice. Can we come out in our pulpits, in our congregations, tell parents about the things that we don't think are right? And as a church, when we start talking about it in the pulpits, in our schools, in all the platforms that God has given us, like this Church of Uganda Family TV, when we talk about these things, then we are helping the world out there to also add our voice as a church. Sometimes we have left these things to NGOs and civil society. We think they're the ones supposed to talk about violence against children, but the church has a voice. The church is supposed to be saying something about these things. So church leaders, church members, can we be the voice of the voiceless? So the church is not just in the walls of the church where we go and pray and spend overnights and read the Bible, then we get out in the community and we keep quiet. If you see something out there and it's not right, as a church, as Mothers Union, as Fathers Union, as Children Ministry, get out there and say, this is not acceptable. Let's do something. So the Bishop is calling upon us as a church to use this month to start doing things that we should have done. Not just for this month, I think the whole year, but let us use this month to step out there and be seen to be the people that God has put out for the children of this country. And you know the advantage we have as a country. Children are the biggest numbers in this country. We are a country which has children more. What are we doing to impress these children?